Welcome to Your Energy First, the podcast where intuition meets mindset for aligned decisions in life and business. I'm your host, Emily McNaughton, here to help guide you in unlocking your unique energy and create success your way. Welcome, everyone, back to the Your Energy First podcast. I'm so excited. Today, we have the lovely Mimi Clark of Gaia Blooming. She's an intuitive astrologer and tarot reader who supports individuals in finding clarity and feeling empowered on their unique path. Mimi's grounded curiosity and deep values create a space where you can reflect on your life through a more compassionate, expansive lens. Her readings help people feel more calm, confident, and aligned as they navigate their personal journey. I am so excited for you to experience her energy again, or maybe for the first time, and listen to today's insights in this episode. Mimi, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, you all know that you know this because you've experienced it in the reading. So it was really nice to just hear that and feel that about my reading presence and what I can offer. So thank you.
Oh, good. You're so welcome. And it's interesting because we met through a mutual friend, and I've hired you for readings, and I always appreciate, like, this is what I look for in practitioners that I work with. Like, you are very grounded in your sense of self, and you don't compromise that to give me the experience I may want or be desiring, right? And of course, we're at very different stages now with all of that, but you never compromise the journey,
Right.
and that's important. So, speaking of the journey, let's get right into it. You know, these last few weeks have been so right now it's the first week of July. We're just getting through the first week of July, entering the second week of July, and it has been just such an interesting few weeks for a lot of people. So, where are we at right now astrologically? What are we getting set up towards?
Um, I want to say first, really funny when you were saying like it's been a few, I was like, are you gonna say weeks? Are you gonna say months? Are you gonna say years? Because I feel like it's
Touche.
right? Like a kind of a crescendo of things like ongoing. But we
Absolutely.
just had a really big shift. We just had the planet Uranus move out of the sign of Taurus and into the sign of Gemini. And uh, there's some retrogrades that happen, so there's going to be a little back and forth. But it's a pretty big shift. Uranus takes about 7, 8 years to move through a sign. We've been moving through these lessons of Taurus since like 2018, 2019. We had some experience with it, and we're gonna have a little bit more, but it feels pretty major. And I taught an astro class a few years ago, and one of the things I really enjoyed doing was just asking my students, like, did you feel it? Because one of the ways I experience astro is literally through the feeling. It's not just like the mental, the feeling. And I've heard from so many people that have felt the difference in this energy, from this planet. Um, Uranus energy is responsible for our evolution. It brings change, it brings liberation. It's also the planet that is kind of responsible for a little bit of the breakdown breakthrough. It's not necessarily like the easiest energy always to work with. I personally maintain that all of the planets, all of the energies, even the challenging ones, are here working for us. So the
100%.
revolution of the Uranus energy, the breakdown breakthrough, is for us. But that doesn't make it easy. And so Tauruses, at least for the next few months, are like, phew, thank you. And Geminis are like, oh my gosh, I feel the quickening. But the interesting thing about astrology is like, even if you're not a sun sign Taurus or Gemini, there's other planets and places in your chart that can reflect this energy. And even if you don't have any planets in these signs, the way a chart works is when a planet moves, it affects everybody. It moves to a different sector in your chart. And so we're all feeling this shift for one way or another. But I do think that it's setting us up for some more, I would say, rapid change over the
Mm.
next several years. And you're like, hasn't there been enough? And clearly the cosmos is like, nope, we got some more. We got some more to bring you. So that's one of the big things that we're working through. And when I say it's only a short time, it's basically from it moved in on 7/7. July 7th is when Uranus moved into the sign of Gemini. And then it will retrograde back into Taurus on November 7th. So we have like these 4 months to get a sneak peek of what the
Mhm.
next 7, 8 years will bring on this level.
Interesting. So when you were sharing that, the energy that they were showing me is like a huge rock, more like a boulder. And it makes sense that these are the things as collectively we come into more consciousness and the consciousness lands more mainstream, which is what's happening. It would make sense that now we're ready for the rapid change. Even though the rapid change makes me catch my breath a little bit, that's okay. Here we go, rock and roll. We've got this life. We're here. We're living it. Okay, thank you for explaining that. So, if someone is looking at their chart, what's like one thing you would recommend they look at to help give them a little bit of insights to guide them in this part?
Know how to recognize the glyph of Gemini, then one of the things that I think would be helpful is look where Gemini is in your chart. So there's so many layers of astrology. One of the layers
Yeah.
is houses in astrology, and so if you look and see what house it's in, um, that might give you a little insight as to where change might be showing up for you. And I will say, for those of you who are a little bit more advanced with astrology, there's two ways you can look at the chart. One is from your ascendant, which is looking where the houses are. But then another way you can look at it is looking where your sun is and like kind of um, count the house areas until you hit Gemini from the sun area. And that kind of gives you dual lessons that you might
Mhm.
be learning. On a group level, Gemini energy is mind, it's communication, it's technology, it's our local areas around us. And so Uranus is bringing change to all of these layers. And I do think that there's really interesting potential for us um, in evolving our mental energies and how our mental energies help create the world around us, which I think is really interesting.
And that is something like I personally experience lessons and growth myself, and then I see trends with clients, and then I see trends on the collective level. And obviously, I don't see all of the trends. And that's been one of them is our mind. But that, of course, is ancient wisdom. So, what trends have you noticed in your practice with clients as of late? What's been coming up?
That's interesting. What has been coming up? Um, the mind thing has definitely been one of the layers. I think because it's probably a big lesson for me. Working the layers of my mind, I attract a lot of clients who are also looking for that support. I've had a lot of relationship stuff popping up
Mhm.
in clients recently, shifts in relationship, and that is something that is interesting. Right before Uranus shifted, we had a meeting of Venus and Uranus at the final degree of Taurus, and like just I would say in this last week and a half, every call I've gotten, whether it's friends or clients, have been like, oh my gosh, my relationships really shook up. This is really hard. And it's not just been romantic relationships, it has been relationships on multiple layers. And so that's definitely been a theme that I've been seeing and looking at astrologically. Trying to think what else has been.
That is interesting around relationships. I've been seeing that same trend. I've been experiencing it myself too. So, do you think has brought people? So, take someone who's been in an existing relationship, friendship, or romantic. You know, let's just assume that people are with good people, right? And I think that's kind of to me, this is the wave I'm seeing. Okay. So we understood in the past that there was toxic patterns, toxic relationships. We have educational means now to work through that. Moving forward, now we're in these relationships with good people, but something has shifted. So what are you noticing? Go ahead. I feel like you're about to.
No, I'm breathing through it, feeling through it. Um, so Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus, like I said, for the last 7 years approximately. And one of the layers of Taurus is values. And that's one of the things I'm going to utilize my best friend who is struggling with this with her partner. Um, their challenge right now is not compatibility, not whether they love each other, but that their values and what they're seeking in the relationship is differing. And so, having leveled up and maybe even liberated part of our value systems over the last several years with Uranus and Taurus, this is becoming a challenge. Like, people aren't necessarily seeing eye to eye in that way. Um, I
That is so good.
is that does that feel
It
aligned?
it completely does. And it's interesting that you share that because I actually saw a clip from a uh, multi-decade relationship expert, and she said, "I used to think good relationships were about compatibility." And she goes, "That now has shifted." And she said it is about love and direction. And I look at my own life and I'm like, what is it that I need in someone? And it is the values and that we do desire to move in a similar direction. So,
Yeah. There's a beautiful quote by Antoine Saint Exupéry. I'm probably saying his name totally wrong. It's he's the writer, the author of The Little Prince, which is one of my favorite books. But the quote is in essence like love isn't about like staring at each other, but it's like looking out into the world, and kind of seeing the same energy in essence.
oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. And so I think also speaking of mind, I would say that I believe that there's been a lot of mental manipulation over the last few years. Like there's been a lot of like fear energies, which can really change your mind. It can actually mess with like the hormones in your body and your mind, and all kinds of other things. And I feel like that has also confused things where people used to be able to find a center within themselves that might not feel as safe anymore. And I feel like that has also just been very intense for relating, and has kind of, again, even though it may not necessarily be coming from the partner, it's shaken trust in things, is what, again, I've seen a lot of issues around trust coming up. And I think
Interesting.
we can aim it at like the person, like, can I trust this person? But like the trust layer has to be first like grounded in the self, right? And so that's something that I'm seeing coming up. And I would say that having some sense of grounded trust in yourself is going to be important to move through the transit of Gemini. I sometimes, or the transit of Uranus and Gemini, I sometimes like to liken the Gemini energy to the game of telephone and how information can get so convoluted from one person to another. And so there's going to be distortion out there just because of, that kind of energy. And so it's going to be really important to have good discernment and grounding in the self where you can be like, yeah, that feels aligned, or no, that doesn't feel aligned to me.
I could not agree more. If I were to, as a practitioner, if I think about feeling a little bit mama bear-esque about the good people out there, that would be my one main concern is how easily people are falling for false truths. It's really, really concerning, and it feels like an act of bravery to go within and determine your own personal like beliefs and sense into what's BS and what's true.
apologize for my noisy cat in the background.
You, Mimi,
Can't get the poop. I'm covering the poop that's out there, right? Like he likes the timing of it. But yeah, yeah.
this podcast is used to cat antics. So you're in the right place. Your kitty's in the right place. Which kitty is it?
Lionel. Lionel is my new little orange boy. He was
Oh,
gray and yeah, an orange boy. We all know what that
yes,
is, right?
yes, yes.
He kind of walked up to our door right around my birthday back in November. And then he was like, "No, I live here now." And so he's lived here now since then. He came in. My other cat Wolf was like, "No, you don't." And he's like, "No, I'm going to be here." And they've worked it out and it's peaceful again. But he's a little fastidious when he's in the litter box. He's like, "I need to make sure the poop is buried."
That
So
is hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, and how appropriate for this conversation too.
it's so Uranus. But
You know, it's
yeah.
funny. Well, you say Uranus, I say Uranus, and I think that's even more of the fun play on words. I will make a quick note. One of the other trends I've noticed, I'd be curious. We've known for a long time how special animals are, all animals. And it's my personal belief based on my experience that the majority of animals are actually more advanced than we are, spiritually speaking. And what I'm seeing in client sessions is, and this has been going on for a couple of years, but the animals come in almost like as a guide, like their own pets come in as guides and information. And it's just, I sit back and it's really reshaped how I am with my own pets. It's just very interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. We have three cats, and they each have their own very unique personality, and they all offer something different, but all of their offerings to me I find just so heart opening. One of my
Amen.
cats, she's
Amen.
like, "Let's just cuddle." And we just
Yeah.
sit there like she's a stuffed animal and she sits
Yep.
there and she does that. Another one, she's fierce and she's like, "Hey, you've got to allow yourself to like let your fierce out." Like her
Yeah.
name's Wolf. So, let your inner wolf out. And then Lionel, he's a handsome goofball. He's cringe goofball who's like, "Can we play? Can we play? Don't forget to play." And so they all have, their work that they do here. And it's interesting too how they differ with me and then like
Yeah.
what they bring to Joe, which
Yeah.
similar layers, but different expressions of it.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that this invites people to open up their hearts a bit more to the experience that they get to have with their pets. You don't have to force anything. It's more just, okay, I understand you're an awesome pet and I'm your awesome pet parent, guardian, but also what else is there? What else is there? And they will show you. They will show you. So.
I agree.
I used to never like cats, by the way. Like I was an anti-cat person. I was deathly allergic. I mean, I'd break out in hives, swelling, the whole nine yards. And now when I see the magic and the different magic both of my cats bring forward, I was like, if you'd have told me that this is my experience now, I never would have believed you, ever. It's wild. Okay, so getting back to relationships, where we're headed, we also have a full moon this week. A
Yes. Yeah.
full moon. And I always tell people to, you know, I think different seasons of full moons call us to different things. So I always encourage people like, well, what are you feeling? You may feel nothing this full moon. It doesn't mean you're not spiritual. It doesn't mean you're not intuitive. It just means this full moon wasn't one of the big shebangs for you or whatever. So what is this full moon bringing in for us right now in this season?
This full moon is in Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn. And I would say it's a relatively quiet full moon. What I mean by that is what can make some of the full moons feel a little bit more pow pow is some of the connections that they make. This full moon is like kind of in the sky doing its own thing. And I think that's good because I think we have enough pow pow in the background with some of these other transits that we've been feeling.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Knows the pow pow, right? It's Capricorn energy is about structure. And so I think that there's kind of a call for like even as there's like dismantling and again this energy of change that's moving through with Uranus and Gemini, um it's like okay, what are the structures that feel sound in yourself? One of those layers that I like to look at is the layer of I like to call it responsibility. Capricorn energy to me is about responsibility, but I like to phrase it as responsibility. And how I mean that is to me, Capricorn energy is about connecting to like your soul blueprint, your purpose, your mission. Why did you come here? What is that destiny? What is your purpose? And a lot of times we can get really wrapped up in the responsibilities that the world throws at us. Like you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to make this much money, you have to pay your bills, all those things. But the truest layer of Capricorn to me is how can I respond to the world in a way that's true to my soul, that's true to my soul blueprint, so that I can show up in purpose on purpose. And so anytime we have like a full moon in Capricorn or anything moving through the sign of Capricorn, that's something that you can like check on in yourself. And again, set as kind of like a beautiful foundation to build your structures on, whether there's structures inside of yourself or structures outside of yourself.
I love this. I especially think of as people who are a little bit more empathic or intuitive. I think sometimes we sort of, oh, structure, ew, let me be free because we've been in structure for so long. And yet, Julie Andrews, pardon me, Julie Andrews has this great quote that she loves discipline because it gives her freedom. And so it feels to me like we're starting to take back this essence of good structure, good discipline, one that helps build more freedom from within. Interesting.
I like that too because I think that pulls you back to personal authority, right? Um,
Yeah.
we discipline ourselves. That's our own personal, authority over ourselves. And authority is one of the layers of Capricorn as well. And we can again tend to give authority out to others, but I'm not saying that you can't do that, but at the same time, it's really important to be aware and take ownership of your own personal authority and your choices and everything, moving from that, so on.
It's interesting how when you share that, what comes through is so many times people in couples will tell me like they're unhappy, right? But they're kind of confused why they're unhappy because things are good, like in their personal relationships. And the guides will reflect back to them, well, what do you want? What do you want? And people are like, whoa, I don't know what I want. I want this person to make me happy. Well, we know how that works out. So one of the things that came through, because I also don't want people to feel like all is lost in their relationships. And if you don't have similar goals or visions, can you create one together? Can you build a bridge to create one or two visions together that you are working towards, so to speak, working towards living or being or working? So,
Beautiful.
okay. Thank you for that. Anything else that you wanted to share that was coming through for today?
Coming through for today or like moving on beyond this Uranus energy and what's
Moving
coming up?
on.
Moving
Let's do
on?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, um, so Uranus is one I don't want to call it dominoes, but that's what's kind of popping up in my head. One domino and kind of like a poop, a little, flow of dominoes coming on. And
And
so
the ploop is an advanced technical term, people, so just so
yeah,
you know.
yes. It is. I like sound effects, so I make my um we are already finding ourselves moving towards our second eclipse season of the year. So we always have two eclipse seasons every year. And generally, each eclipse season has two eclipses, a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. Sometimes it happens that we have a few more, but we generally have at least four eclipses a year. And so these eclipses, they are coming up in September and they are in the signs of Virgo Pisces. And this is interesting. So we currently have the nodes in the sign of Virgo and Pisces. And the nodes are kind of like our yellow brick road. Like this is what we want to follow to work with the universe, right? This is kind of like the guidelines. Okay, you want to get ahead, this is how you got to do it. And so the South Node is in Virgo, and South Node can represent patterns that you maybe overutilize, a tendency to like fall into this hole, like a kind of a black hole kind of energy, like, oh, it's sucking all my energy. And so we want to be aware of the Virgo tendencies and not overutilize them right now. And what we want to do is work with the North Node. So the North Node is currently in Pisces. And so we want to work with the Pisces energies. And I think it's really interesting. This is where the eclipses are also going to be working us. But Virgo energy can really represent reality, and it can represent the mind and the very like analytical mind energy versus Pisces. Um, Pisces is spirit and imagination. And rather than being like Virgo can be kind of regimented, Pisces energy is flowy, as we have a lovely Pisces host right here. So the nodes are telling us we want to lean into our imagination. We want to lean into seeing where we can flow. We want to lean into, I know this can be a little controversial, looking at things sometimes through rose colored glasses. What could be? What do you want in the world? Rather than getting too caught up in reality. Now, I'm not telling you to go completely delulu and avoid happening in the world. And yet, what the astrology is telling me is like if you over fixate on reality right now, you are going to be stuck in this cycle of recreating it. And I don't want to recreate this. Like I've had
Right.
enough of it already. I think we have some more to go, but I've had enough. But a reminder to use our imagination and to use those energies to create what we want. And that goes back into the mind energy, like really being very potent with the mind energy. And so these eclipses are going to kind of double down on that energy. And that Virgo eclipse, let me see, what is the day of the Virgo eclipse? It is, I always have my cheat sheet sitting in front of me. It is
Good.
September 21st. It's at the final degree of Virgo. And so it's going to be the most Virgoiest Virgo energy that we're going to be finding ourselves in. We have a Pisces eclipse happening before that. And with that Pisces eclipse, the Pisces eclipse is on the 7th, September 7th. With that Pisces eclipse, we really want to like take time to see and know that it's possible to create the world of our dreams, to bring good things into the world. I know it doesn't feel good right now, and I can't say that it's going to be like, your wish is my command from the universe. But I think everybody needs to know that it does make a difference and it is powerful to spend time um, imagining and then living from that place, living in that way, bringing that energy into reality.
Thank you for sharing that. And I've definitely been experiencing that energy myself coming through. And we always want to be mindful when there is so much going on in the world when we say, see the world with possibility, create your destiny. There's a balance for sure. But to your point, we need to collectively create our new experience. And that's what we're doing.
I think, it's really interesting the balance energy, right? And what I want to like bring to that is we exist in reality somewhat, right? For the most part, minus those with us with the soundtrack in our heads who, see whatever as we walk down the street. But we're living in reality. And so that's why, like, to bring that balance, it really is important to take conscious time to daydream and imagine. I like to use the phrase, use your illusion. There's so much illusion in the world. You might as well use your illusion, use your daydream, use your imagination to infuse beauty and goodness. And again, the balance is important for sure. Like you cannot avoid reality. This isn't about bypassing, you know, at all. But it's also knowing that sometimes the contrast and the ugly and the challenge in the world can also be the inspiration for the goodness that you would like to see, that you can infuse in your life, but also in and through your dreams.
So true. So true. How beautiful. Thank you so much, Mimi. Where can people find you? How can they book a session with you?
My website is currently a little wonky. You can always find my website, which is GaiaBlooming.com. But I find the best way, if you want to book a reading, is just email me. And it's mimiclark@gmail.com, MIMICLARK@gmail.com. I also have my email posted below my daily videos. I do daily YouTube videos of like the overall energies. And so you can check there if you can't remember my email and you will see it and you can message me and I'll hit you back.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, give our best to your kitties and to Joe. And it was so wonderful to connect today. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your spirit. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It has been so great to connect here. If this episode resonated with you, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who you want to have more of these chats with. As you move throughout your day, remember, your energy is your superpower. As you pay attention to it and trust it, you can watch your entire life begin to transform.